it's your girl from Philly. Welcome to another episode of Handcrafted Wine, where we make great wine from home the fun and easy way. Before we get started, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes. Today's episode, we're making Raspberry Lime Melomel. A melomel is a mead with fruit in it, and a mead is honey wine. So actually, we're making raspberry lime honey wine. Say that 10 times. Our ingredients are going to be 2 pounds of raspberry, which I've rinsed with a solution of Campden tablet and water and set in the refrigerator overnight. 3 pounds of honey. I'm taking the easy way today. The market that is close to me sells cold pressed juice. So I'm going to be using 16 ounces of lime juice. And instead of topping off with water, I'm going to be topping off with raspberry apple juice. Now, the first thing that I need to do is I need to weigh out my 3 pounds of honey. So I'm going to use my kitchen scale. And we're going to add exactly 3 pounds. We're almost there. Oh, no, we're not. I saw the 3 and I got excited. Okay, we are just about a pound now. So it's going to be more than half of this bottle. This is a 5-pound bottle. I warmed it up, but it's still moving kind of slowly. We're at 2 pounds now. And once we get to 3, I'll show you exactly what 3 pounds look like in this 1-gallon container. We're almost there. We're just about there. We're at 3 pounds. Spilled a little on the side. That's good. So this is 3 pounds of honey in a 1-gallon container. And we have, in a 5-gallon container, we have just about that much left. I'm just going to clean up this spill. Perfect. And I can turn my scale off and close up the balance of the honey. So next I'm going to add in our 16 ounces of lime juice. And I know you say that sounds like a lot of citric acid, but it's going to balance out. It's going to be okay. And I'm going to thoroughly stir and combine this lime juice with the honey. I'll raise it up so you can see it a little bit better. And it's going to take a lot of stirring to incorporate this all together. Actually, it's kind of incorporating quickly. Now, I've made a raspberry melomel before. Actually, when I was preparing to start this channel, I made a few of them just to get the recipes right. But the lime juice is a new addition, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so in that time, we've actually incorporated all of the lime juice and the honey. That didn't take long at all. Just so I don't have to sanitize my spoon again, I'm going to actually leave it in here. It still has some honey, residual honey on it. I'm making some crazy sounds. Next, I'm going to add my straining bag. Get in there. And I'll just hold it halfway. And we're going to spoon in our 2 pounds of raspberries. Now, you know, typically when I make a wine, I use 3 pounds of fruit. But because we're using both lime juice and raspberries, I'm only using 2 pounds of the raspberries. Plus, we're using a raspberry apple juice for our top-off liquid. They smell so good. And because raspberries disintegrate so easily, I won't be blitzing them with my immersion blender or mashing them with the potato masher. I'll just leave them as is. When we go back and take a look at it, when it's time to rack it, we'll see that it's most of the fruit will be eaten up by the yeast. We're about halfway there. This smells so bright and pretty. What are some of the things that you like raspberries on? I like raspberries on cheesecake. So I'm thinking this melomel might go well with a cheesecake. Or any type of cheese, I guess. Raspberry goes really good. It's acidic, but not in a very strong way. The lime juice is going to give it some extra punch. All right, we're almost done. And I think I'm going to pour the rest in. I hope my bag doesn't slide in. Come on, guys. There's a balancing act. Keeping the bag in place and getting the fruit in at the same time. All right, and we made it. Okay. So I'm going to close off my straining bag. I'm not adding anything else inside the bag today. And then we're going to move on to our usual players. I'm going to tie this twice just because I don't want any of the little seeds coming out. Get in there, guy. There we go. So it's tied nice and tight. And I'm just going to move the fruit down a little bit. Not mashing it, but just moving it into the honey mixture a little bit. It's changing the color now. I'm really curious to see what the color is going to be when this is done. The honey we used is, it just says pure honey. It doesn't let us know what flowers it's from, which usually tells me it's not, you know, harvested from a particular grove of flowers, like orange blossom or lilac or something like that. Okay, now I'm going to top this off with our raspberry apple juice. Cold press. And remember, none of the juices that I'm using have any type of preservatives in them. I'm thinking this is probably going to have like a pale pinkish color. I don't think we're going to develop a dark red color in this. And it's stirring a lot better now. So I'm going to be risky and add just a tiny bit more liquid to it. I'll stop there because I don't want any blowouts. So we've used quite a bit of the juice. I'm going to freeze this for topping off after we've removed the fruit out of primary fermentation when we're going into secondary. I'll just put it in like a Ziploc bag and store it in the freezer. I like to do that to maintain the same flavors. All right, that's very well incorporated. Now we can go on with our usual players, which is our pectic enzyme to break down the cell walls in our raspberries so our yeast can get to all of the sugars and we have more of a fruit flavor. We're not going to be using acid blend today because, of course, we have lots of acid in here already with the raspberries and with the lime juice, but we will be using our dynamic duo, which is our yeast nutrient and our yeast energizer. I'm going to dissolve our tannin in a tiny bit of juice, not very much. We know how stubborn tannin can be. And today is no different. It is taking its time dissolving. There's quite a bit of chunks in it today. Yep. A little stubborn. Yep. I think that's the last little bubble. I'm going to completely dissolve that. And what's left on the spoon, I'm just going to wipe off on the bag. Make sure it all gets in there. Okay. Oh, wow. I do have a few more chunks in here that I have to dissolve. All right. There we go. Our stubborn tannin that we love so much. And we know that as tannin settles during the fermentation process, the darkness that you see right now, it's not going to be there. It will actually clear. Okay. I'm going to stir a little bit more. With our star sand. I saw a couple bubbles of the yeast energizer. I want to make sure that's completely dissolved as well. Now, depending on what our hydrometer reading is, I may add a tablespoon or two more of honey, but I think we might be okay. Okay. Now for our reading. I'm going to blitz our beaker with a little star sand, as well as our turkey baster. Of course, everything has been sanitized prior to it beginning. Actually, I smell more lime than I do raspberry. I wonder if that's going to balance out or if that's going to be the predominant flavor in here. We may have to call it lime raspberry melomel instead of raspberry lime. Okay, that's our 250 milliliters. And let's get our hydrometer. this is actually, the gravity is a lot higher than what we want. And that's probably because I've topped off with juice instead of with water. So I'm going to add a little water to this. Well, I'll leave that out. And I'm going to top it off, and then I'll remove some, just so that we're not at risk of it blowing out on us. Yeah, see, that's pretty full. We're not gonna use all of that for fermentation. Maybe I should have gone with 2.5 pounds of honey, since I was actually using a juice as well. So we'll see what happens. I have sugar down to a science, but honey, honey is a totally different story. Which is probably why I made 3 batches before I even started the show. Okay, let's see where we are now. Okay, that's a little better. It's still going to be a very high alcohol. Well, it's not going to be a high alcohol batch. What's going to happen is that it's going to be a very sweet batch because we're using Premier Classic yeast, which only goes to about 15% ABV. So this is telling me that we're at, let me get my numbers right, people. 1.130, which is really, really high. This is going to be really sweet, which should take us to 16% ABV or 17% ABV if we actually were to ferment that far. And I don't think we will. I don't think we're going to ferment that far. So this is going to be a sweet batch. I won't have the back sweetness, but I still will keep the juice for topping it off. And I just want to check this to make sure that it's actually fermenting within 24 hours. With the Brix being that high, sometimes if there's too much sugar, then the yeast have a hard time getting started as well. But I'll see what happens with it. And if I have to remove more of the solution and add a little bit more water, that's exactly what I'll do. Trial and error. One thing for sure is no matter what, it's going to become a mead or a melomel. But this, I think, is going to be a pretty sweet melomel, more like a dessert wine. Okay, so the next thing we need is our lid, which a drilled hole in a grommet on it. And our airlock, and I'll fill it with star sand. To the maximum fill line. I just sprayed it all over myself, guys. All right, that's at the max fill line with some extra bubbles. And I may take this and put it into a small vessel and try fermenting just a small amount, or I may just save it for later. We'll see. I might freeze that as well. The yeast won't die if you freeze it. They just go to sleep, and as soon as you defrost the product that has yeast in it, it'll become active again. All right. So this is our Raspberry Lime Melomel, or depending on how this comes out, we might switch it around to being our Lime Raspberry Melomel. Right now, based upon our hydrometer reading, we're looking at a very sweet product, but it might surprise us. It may ferment to dry. If it does, it's going to be a very high alcohol product. All right, so that's it for this episode. I'm actually going to start another episode in about a half an hour. But I want to thank you for joining me at Handcrafted Wine, spending this time with me. Please, again, remember to like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. Buy your own equipment and make some wine with me. It's a lot of fun, and it's also a lot of fun to drink. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.